work. Nobody's interested in a working Nigeria, because a working Nigeria will change the status quo. Don't forget that I told you, Nigeria is a business enterprise. The business template with which Britain established Nigeria is still the business template that Nigeria is running on today. That's why the people who want to rule Nigeria will go to Britain. They will go to Chatham House. If you want to be president, it is Nigeria you want to rule, but you will go to London, to Chatham House in London, to tell them how you will rule their estate, how you will rule their business center. That business template, that business idea with which Nigeria was established is still running Nigeria today. The politicians come for business. They come to make profit. They come to steal money. If somebody can spend 100 million naira to buy nomination form, you can be rest assured that that person will do everything to regroup the money. I am just talking about the nomination form. I've not talked about money spent to run commercials, money spent to print handbills and posters, money spent in giving bribe, money spent in buying off fellow candidates so that they don't run against you, money spent in all manner of things, and even involving in some fetish and spiritual things that eyes does not see. They will want to regroup the money. Business, that business, we can conduct a referendum. Nigeria can conduct a referendum. There's no problem in that. Nations of the world are conducting referendum as we speak. A call for referendum is not a call for war. Conduct referendum. Welcome to the show. My name is Innocent. I remain your host with the most. Welcome again to Discourse. In today's topic, we will be looking at the problem with Nigeria. And as we have always said, in this channel, we will be discussing crucial matters that affect the life of Nigerians. And so, if that is your area of interest, we will implore you to please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Facebook. Be part of what is going on here, because all of us are Nigerians and we want the best for Nigeria. Thank you for being there. Today we are looking at the problem with Nigeria. Perhaps we should have a little background history of the place that is called Nigeria. Of course, it didn't start as Nigeria. It started as multi-ethnic nationalities who lived in their own space, minding their own businesses, having rules and laws that govern them, having their culture, their history, their traditions, which formed part of their being and their values, until 1849, when a British company came into existence in that part of the world. This British company migrated all the way from Britain, perhaps trying to expand its business, and came to a place that we now call Nigeria and settled there. Now, when they came, they met tribal people. They met people in this enclave, people who lived in this region, who had it as their home. And now when this company came, the Royal Niger Company is the name. It came for business. And so everything it did was for business. It came and began to tap into the natural resources all around the place that is now called Nigeria. There were many tribal nationalities, many ethnic nationalities in this place. You had the Igbo, the Yorubas, the Hausas, you had the Efik, you had the Nupes, and so many. There was also the Biafrans. All these were in the place that is now called Nigeria. As at this time, the name has not become Nigeria. The Royal Niger Company was doing business, taking the natural resources, white rubber, and every other thing that they could, timber, and other stuff, just business. The main reason they came first was solely for business, and business it was until 50 years later. 50 years later, in 1899, the Royal Niger Company now sold their business interest. The place that is called Nigeria now was an exclusive of Royal Niger Company. They now sold it to Britain. When it was sold to Britain, don't forget, it was sold to the British government. And the British government, its intention was to continue in the business. The reason why the Royal Niger Company sold the place called Nigeria now, or their business interest as at that time, the reason it was sold to Britain, we don't know. we can only speculate that it is perhaps because the resources in the present day Nigeria was bigger, much more vast than was expected. So perhaps the Royal Niger Company as a company could not handle the business anymore. It was bigger than them. This is my personal view. And let me quickly point out before I go on, all the views in this discourse, all the views in this program are personal. They belong to this crew. These are not tribal views. These are not religious views. These are not the views of a certain religious group or a certain tribal group. And you can ask questions in the comments and maybe make your own contribution in the comments as we go on. What am I trying to say? In 1899, the Royal Niger Company sold the space that is now called Nigeria for 865,000 pounds. Keep that in mind. 1899, this company was sold for 865,000 pounds in those days. That is to tell you the resources were enormous, to the point that the company had to sell this nation, Nigeria, as it is now, to the company, the British government. So British government assumed ownership of the place that is called Nigeria. It was solely for business. And so they began to tap into the resources from north to south, from south to west, from south to east. They began to tap into the resources of the present day Nigeria. So Nigeria, as it is right now, became a company, a business interest for Britain. Britain now owned Nigeria because they bought Nigeria. I don't know who handed Nigeria over to Royal Niger Company. History is silent on who sold Nigeria to, or the place called Nigeria now. The ethnic nationalities then that made up the space. The size of the geographic location of the current place called Nigeria was exclusively the right, the ownership of Royal Niger Company. Who sold it to Royal Niger Company, we don't know. History never told us. How they were able to lobby their way or find their way into owning Nigeria as it is now, nobody knows. But they sold it. The Royal Niger Company finally sold Nigeria, or the space, rather, because as at that time it has not become Nigeria. Sold the space to the British government in 1899 for 865,000 pounds. So from that day, after the selling, the place that is called Nigeria today became the right and the property of the British government. British government owned it. British government began to administer it. Now let me tell you that in 1914, quickly, let's move forward to 1914. British government had already appointed administrative heads, leaders over the enclave of the place called Nigeria. And so they had their own governors and governor generals who were administering Nigeria for political purposes, administrative purposes. The sole reason initially, the primary reason of buying Nigeria was for economy. And so in 1914, Britain, due to their interest, economy, making money, business, taking the resources here in the place called Nigeria now, they had to amalgamate. They had to join the north and the south for ease of their business, just solely for their own interest. And so they bonded Nigeria together, calling it the name Nigeria. This one happened in 1914. They brought the north and the south. Don't forget that the entire south, that is southwest, southeast, and any other people that come around this area was all called south. So they merged it with the north for ease of their doing business, not really for the interest of the people who owned the land or who lived in the land. It was solely for business purposes, so that it would be easy for them to coordinate the north and the south as one entity for the purpose of doing business. This was in 1914. It was also in that 1914 that the name Nigeria came. The name Nigeria came from Niger area. The governor general at that time was a man called Lord Lugard, and it is in history that his mistress, that is his girlfriend, what you can call a side chick in the context of today, was the one that called the place Nigeria, Niger area. Whether it is the Niger of River Niger or the Niger as the parent company, the Royal Niger Company, that one is yet to be known. But she called it Niger area, and that is the name that Nigeria bears up until today. Then afterwards, there came agitation for independence, which culminated in independence for Nigeria in the year 1960. This is just to give you a background history, so that you know how the place that is now called Nigeria, the country where you and I come from, the place that we can call our own, how it came about. Having said that, I will now want to go into the main focus of today's talks. I want to go into what we are here to talk about, the problem with Nigeria. I have been able, on a personal note or on a personal ground, to identify 3 things that I think is the problem of Nigeria. And I can tell you, because when there is a problem, when you identify the problem, then that is part of the solution. If you can find the problem, then you can easily find the solution. What I discover as problem number 1, I call it foundational. This is the formation of Nigeria. The formation of Nigeria is one of the problems of Nigeria. Brethren, as we know it today, people that constitute a nation sit down to agree on how to form a nation and how to run their nation. Pay attention to what we are saying right now, brethren. The people who owns the nation, the various ethnic nationalities, the various tribes, the various people who own a nation today, who live in a nation that is called a nation today, they sit down to discuss and agree to live together as one. They sit down to agree that this is the system of government or the type of government that we should run that will be beneficial to all. That was not the case for Nigeria. From the history we just said, you know how Nigeria was formed. Britain formed Nigeria. They didn't form Nigeria for the interest of Nigerians. They formed Nigeria for their own business interest. This became the fundamental problem of Nigeria. Britain brought various ethnic nationalities. I can call them strange bedfellows, who didn't know each other, who came from different cultural backgrounds, who have differences in languages, who have differences in religion and differences in values, and match them together without considering their interests, whether they will agree to live together as one, whether they will agree to forge ahead as one. That was not considered. As long as it was easy for Britain to do their business, take the resources, make money out of the place that is called Nigeria now, we are going to go ahead with it. Like I have said, nations abound in the world that have differences like that, but they sat down and trashed it and choose the type of government that will work for them. That is not done in the case of Nigeria. So there is this disunity, there is this distrust that was existing. Take your mind back to that time in history. That was a time that if you are more powerful, you conquer the people around you. If you are strong military-wise, you invade any people around you, take their land, make them your slaves, begin to collect taxes and levies from them. That was the time that time. So people from the north could have invaded the south. People from the west could have invaded the east. It was possible for people from the east to have invaded the north. The reason is because they didn't know each other. They saw each other as strangers. They saw each other as strange bedfellows. They didn't know any damn thing about each other. But Britain brought them all together without consulting them, without making them talk to each other, without making them to agree that they will live together. Don't forget, the sole purpose was business, economics, just how to tap into the resources and feed their own nest. And I mean Britain, not the people that they were ruling. Their interest was what must be served. And even though their interest cut against the interest of the ethnic nationalities that own this space, it didn't matter to them. So they brought the north and the south together and appointed that Governor General to rule over them. This one happened In 1914, the people were not consulted. This disunity that was natural, that naturally exists between these nationalities that make up. The last time I checked, it was 250 or over 250 ethnic nationalities make up the place we call Nigeria. And let me tell you that any of these ethnic nationalities is able to exist on itself as a nation. But these are the people that Britain merged together just for their own interest, not the interest of the people, without consulting the people. Now, naturally, there existed distrust, hatred, lack of unity among these people. Today, I hear some Nigerians say this government has divided Nigeria. Buhari's government divided Nigeria. I tell them the truth. That is not true. Buhari government did not divide Nigeria. Nigeria was never one. It is not like there is disunity now. No, there has always been and there is still lack of unity, lack of oneness, because we are not one. The original thing that was supposed to be done was the various ethnic nationalities come together and agree to live as one nation. Pick a system of government that will be good for them. A type of government that will favor every person. Whether it is rotational presidency, whatever. But that was not done. And that disunity that originated from we not knowing each other, the various tribes not knowing each other before the white man came, still exists up until today. Today, people vote when there is an election based on ethnic inclination. People vote based on religious inclination. People are tilted to vote for somebody who is in the same religion with them. People are tilted to vote for somebody who is from their ethnic stock, and it doesn't matter whether the person is a criminal, it doesn't matter whether the person is a bad person, as long as it comes from your ethnic stock, then he should be the one to be the president of Nigeria. This is a major problem of Nigeria. It started before the white man came, because we didn't know each other. We were not brothers. We were not raised by the same parents. We didn't speak the same language. We had cultural differences. We had religious differences. We had linguistic differences. We had differences in values. But Britain didn't consider that. And Britain didn't consult the people they want to rule. They fostered their idea, their own template, which was solely for business. It wasn't really for administrative. It wasn't for peace and unity. It was for business. They fostered it on the place called Nigeria today. And Nigeria is still running on that, even up until today. This, my brother, my viewers, this is the beginning, or this is the problem with Nigeria, because it still continues like that. Secondly, the second thing I consider as the problem with Nigeria, don't forget, brethren, that before we get to the end, we are going to try to effect some, what we think can be the solution to this problem. So right now we are enumerating the problem. The second thing I consider as the problem with Nigeria is the un-Nigerianness of the Nigerian space. There is no person that is a Nigerian. Yes, you heard me clearly. There is no person that is a Nigerian. Because of that, nobody have the interest of Nigeria at heart. Britain that formed Nigeria did not have the interest of Nigeria at heart. The politicians who are running Nigeria now does not have the interest of Nigeria at heart. I will give you an example. Take an average politician who is maybe a president who maneuvered his way into power, because I don't want to go into that, but that is part of the problem of Nigeria, which may not come in part 1. Perhaps it will come in part 2 if there is a part 2 of this. But let's leave that one aside. An average politician who maneuvers his way to power didn't go there because he wants to serve the people. He didn't go there because he wants to better Nigeria. No. He didn't go there for the interest of Nigeria. He went there for his own personal interest. There have been few cases where we have a few people who was there for the interest of Nigeria. They didn't last. They were blackmailed out of power. You will even be lucky to keep your head on your shoulders when you leave power. The reason is because these people wanted to change the status quo. These people wanted to do well for Nigeria. These people were interested in making Nigeria to work. These people had a blueprint on how to make Nigeria better. They either will not be given power, or they are haggled out of power. Those who manage, who want to go their way, bribe their way and rig their way into political position, they go there to feather their own nest. They go there to accumulate wealth and steal money that their great-grandchildren will not finish eating. They focus on their own good, not the good of the populace. They spend a large amount of their time in government to plunder the resources of Nigeria. So Nigeria become like a cake, a fully baked cake, kept in a public park with a knife around by the side, so that anybody who comes there will just cut the portion he wants, cut the portion he wants, cut the portion he wants, and goes. That is why you see that in Nigeria was better in 1960 than it is today. You know why? The people that come from independence till now, many of them just come for their own interest, not the interest of Nigeria. So you see, nobody is building to develop Nigeria. Infrastructures deteriorate. The system gets bad and bad and bad because nobody is building on it. What we have is people plundering. That's why you will see when contracts are awarded to companies where the president have interest or the son of the president have interest, so that the buildability, the discharge of the contract does not matter. What matters is disburse money, throw the money, give the money to my family, give the money to my friends, share it. Nobody owns Nigeria. Nobody is interested in the well-being of Nigeria. That is what I call the un-Nigerianness of Nigeria. Have you considered how much the presidential ticket of a political party cost in Nigeria? The last time I checked, it was 100 million naira for somebody to vie for the position in the primaries. He will buy the ticket to contest for election of the president in the primaries. This is election that he's not sure he will win. This is an election he may lose, he may be talked out of. So when the other person who have more money, the other aspirant who has more money now come and say, take your 100 million, let me give you your 100 million, let me even give you 200 million, 300 million, so that you will not run with me, I can return unopposed. He will accept the money and go. Every one of them trying to feather their own interest. If you ever have the interest of Nigeria at heart, you will either not last in power. There are people like Murtala Mohammed. He had the interest of Nigeria at heart. He was killed after 6 months in power. There are people like Yaradua, the second Yaradua. He had the interest of Nigeria at heart. That was natural, though he died. What about Goodluck Jonathan? He had the interest of Nigeria at heart. Every one of us who was grown at 2014 knew what happened to him, how they lied against him and embarked on propaganda because he had the interest of Nigeria at heart. I will not talk about P2B, another person who was sincere, straightforward, and had the interest of Nigeria at heart, but he was regaled out of power. So what am I trying to say? Because nobody had the interest of Nigeria at heart, nobody is working to better Nigeria. Everyone who goes there works to better himself. Everyone who goes there works to better his pocket. The people who are talking at the downstream, if you give them power, if you give them a chance to be governor or to be president anywhere, they will also begin to work to better their own life. You see that divide that was at the beginning, because point number one is quickly followed by point number two. That lack of unity, that lack of oneness, that divide that was in point number one, you also see it play down to point number two, where even religious elites, technocrats are involved playing ethnic politics. Any person in power will better his own life. Talk about his great-grandchildren who are not yet born, reserve wealth for them before he could then try to remember if he has a community or if he has a tribe. Then before he could finish with himself, his family and his tribe, his tenure is finished. He leaves. Don't forget, he has not worked for Nigeria. He didn't do anything for Nigeria. Anything you see them try to do for Nigeria was in a bigger circle for their own interest, not really for Nigeria interest. When you see them award contract, they say, we're going to build East-West Road, blah, 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 blah. They give contract to a company where their children or their friends have interest. A company where they also have interest. They even create some pseudo companies just for the purpose of siphoning the national wealth. They even call it the national cake. So what is the point there? There is un-Nigerianness. Nobody is interested in a better Nigeria. Nobody is interested in making Nigeria to work. Nobody is interested in a working Nigeria, because a working Nigeria will change the status quo. Don't forget that I told you, Nigeria is a business enterprise. The business template with which Britain established Nigeria is still the business template that Nigeria is running on today. That's why the people who want to rule Nigeria will go to Britain. They will go to Chatham House. If you want to be president, it is Nigeria you want to rule, but you will go to London, to Chatham House in London, to tell them how you will rule their estate, how you will rule their business center. That business template, that business idea with which Nigeria was established is still running Nigeria today. The politicians come for business. They come to make profit. They come to steal money. If somebody can spend 100 million naira to buy nomination form, you can be rest assured that that person will do everything to regroup the money. I am just talking about the nomination form. I've not talked about money spent to run commercials, money spent to print handbills and posters, money spent in giving bribe, money spent in buying off fellow candidates so that they don't run against you, money spent in all manner of things, and even involving in some fetish and spiritual things that eyes does not see. They will want to regroup the money. Business, that business template is still running Nigeria. That's what I see as the second problem of Nigeria. This one is closely followed by what I call the third problem with Nigeria. Rather, is the second problem with Nigeria, not of Nigeria, with Nigeria. And the third one is the one I call the third problem with Nigeria, is the unwillingness of the political class to make Nigeria better. The unwillingness of the political class is seen, all manifested in that when they come to power, they do not do anything to change the status quo. They don't do anything to better Nigeria from what it was when they came in to what they think it should be or what it will be. Many of them do not even have it in their plan to better Nigeria. No, many of them, before they come into power, that's why they do all manner of things to come into power, because they are not going there to make things better. They are only going there to make their life better. They have this unwillingness. We have had people suggest resource control through federalism, restructuring, and of late, referendum. Let me tell you the truth. Nigeria was amalgamated forcefully in 1914. The truth is that anything that is being done without changing the state that Nigeria was in 1914, or the foundation of Nigeria as it was in 1914, is only validating the error of Lord Lugard. They tell you, let us vote, conduct election every 4 years, vote your people, choose your people, raise a team to vote. We all saw what happened in 2023 election. We know that your vote don't count. We know that those who count the vote count. They are the ones who are valued. They have more voice than those who vote. A friend told me before 2023 election, he said, now that you are talking about a solution to Nigeria problem, referendum and this and that, who will conduct the referendum? That's why we are talking, let us vote, let us choose our candidates and vote. Then I asked him, from 1960, okay, let us say from 2023, from 1999 to 2023 is 24 years of uninterrupted democracy. You want me to believe that we've not voted people into power? What about the government of Buhari, the one that gave rise to this government? Didn't we vote for people? Why didn't they conduct a referendum? What about constitutional conference? Why didn't they do it? What about restructuring? Why didn't they do it? You want me to believe that when we vote in 2023, they will do it? If they couldn't do it from 1999 to 2023, what makes you believe they will do it in 2023? And brethren, it has not also been done. You can see that governments of Nigeria keep getting from bad to worse, from bad to worse. They said remove Jonathan, that he does not know what he's doing. He is not building Nigeria well. No, that's not the reason they removed him. They removed him because he wanted to change the status quo. He wanted Nigeria to be better. The people in power today are not interested in a better Nigeria. Neither do they have interest. They have no willingness to make it better. People have suggested things that could have been done to make it better. Instead, they keep validating the error of Britain and the error of Lugard for their own gain. Business. Everybody you see them went there for business. Only few of them went for something different. And that something different, they are not allowed to implement it. The unwillingness of the political class is the problem with Nigeria. Like I said before, when somebody is on the downstream, he has not gotten into power, he will be saying, this is what I will do. If for any reason he is lucky to, if they allow him. Don't forget what we said at the beginning. Everyone who wants to rule Nigeria will go to London to tell the owners of Nigeria, Britain, the owners of the business enterprise called Nigeria. They will go to London to tell them how they will run their business. If they are interested in what you said, then they will approve you. It doesn't matter. You could have a corrupt criminal past, but it won't matter to them as long as you will let them do their business. A few years ago, a friend told me that Nigeria got independent 60 years ago. What have they done with their time? I asked him, did Nigeria actually get independent? I told him this thing. I brought to his knowledge how every Nigerian who wants to be president of Nigeria will go to London. He will go and pay homage to their master. He will go and tell them how he's going to run their business. Now, from what is happening in Burkina Faso and in Niger and in Mali, we now know that the colonial masters didn't go. It all depends on the level of their involvement. They are still there. So the unwillingness of the Nigerian political class to hold the bull by the horn and to address the matter and to tell Britain, remove your hand. It's no longer business as usual. That is a problem with Nigeria. And so, brethren, viewers and followers, you have heard what we think is the problem with Nigeria. The formation of Nigeria is fraught with a lot of irregularities. The un-Nigerianness which closely follow the problem of formation, because nations sit down to agree. This is our differences, let's trash it. They factor their differences into their existence. We are meant to believe every time that diversity is strength. Diversity is strength if it is properly harmonized. If it is not harmonized, diversity is disaster, just like we have it in Nigeria today. Everybody will prefer to go their own way because there is no one person that will serve the interest of all the ethnic nationalities, because the ethnic nationalities have no contribution as to the existence of their nation. The un-Nigerianness of the Nigerian elite, the people who have no interest of Nigeria at heart, instead they only have their own interest. And then the unwillingness of the political class to make changes that will better Nigeria. This is the reason Nigeria keep getting bad and bad and bad. Nigeria was better when I was a young man. When I was younger than this, Nigeria was better. Before the power generating company NEPA, as at that time, before NEPA will cease light, they will make a public broadcast and say for maintenance purposes, power will be out for so number of hours from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. for maintenance. Let me tell you, for those of us who grew up in those days, before that 2 p.m., power is already restored. So then we know, we can count the number of hours that power was seized. But what you can count in Nigeria today is the number of hours that you had light, that you were given light, that you had light in your house. So you see, Nigeria is nobody announces anything anymore. So you see, Nigeria, I just use that as an example. What about education? What about health? What about infrastructure? Things just keep going back, and even politics. The divide now is wider than it was before the white man came. Because for certain number of years, a particular region ruled Nigeria without a care, even for their people. Exactly the same thing I'm talking about. They ruled for quite a number of years without even doing anything for their people, only stealing for themselves alone. That is the problem with Nigeria. That is a problem with Nigeria. So Nigeria happens to be a country that was better yesterday than today, because the people who go into power just want to feast on Nigeria. They want to make gain. Don't forget, business. That business template. They are just going there for business. the money they use for campaigns and all, and buying form and all that is like an investment. When they go into power, they regroup it. These are the problems with Nigeria and the unwillingness of the political class to put anything, to do anything to better Nigeria from the state that they met it. They can see the status quo. They want to maintain it because it is favorable to them. You know about the country called Canada. Canada is made up of two nationalities, the majority English and the minority French. Now, anytime there was an election, this was so many years ago, hundreds of years ago, anytime there was an election, the British were in the majority, so they win. They had a system of government called confederation, where the central government is weak and the regional governments are strong. So, but anytime they conduct an election, the British win. So the French-speaking part now told themselves, we can't continue in this union. We can't continue in this confederation. It was never going to favor us. We are never going to have power. We will never be prime minister. So instead, let us divide. Let English take their own part and form their own nation. While French will take their own part and form their own nation. When they brought it to the General Assembly of the country, the majority, which is the English-speaking part, said, if we love this union and we want the union to continue, if it is because of the position of prime minister, let us cede it to them. Give them the right to produce prime minister. Let the French-speaking part, who are in the minority, continue to be the ones to produce the prime minister. But let them be peace and let them remain in the union. That's what happened, brethren. Followers and listeners, this is what happened. Today, the prime minister of Canada is from the French-speaking part. The one before him, it was from the French-speaking part. The one that will come after him is from the French-speaking part. They ceded it to them so that there will be peace, so that they will remain in the union. Such a thing can be done in Nigeria. But nobody is willing to ever do that. There is that still disunity, that distrust, that hatred and animosity between one to the other. That is what led to Nigeria's civil war. All because the problem with Nigeria was never addressed. It was like that before the white man came. The white man brought strange bedfellows together. The Nigerians who are given the position to rule Nigeria, because they still pay homage to the white man for the interest of the white man and their own personal interest, they are unwilling to change anything like that. Even after over 100 years of living together in a sham nation, we cannot address our problem. We cannot solve it. We know, everybody know. All the people in power know. Everybody who has been in the corridors of power know. The people in the legislative arm of government, they know. The executive know. Nigeria is such a unique place in the negative direction that people know what is wrong and they know what is right, but they just refuse to do it. You know why? Business. That business template. What do I think is the solution to all this? What can I say that if we do it, perhaps Nigeria will be better? I have mentioned in the course of this discussion, people have talked about a constitutional conference where we sit down to talk to ourselves, where we sit down to bring out these problems and devise a system of government that will solve the problem and give us peace in the nation. This is a wise thing. Constitutional conference. We can as well adopt true federalism. In a federal system of government, the powers are with the regions, the powers are with the state. The constitution is what is supreme. It shares power between the federal and the state. We just call Nigeria a federal republic of Nigeria in name. We are not practicing true federalism as it is practiced in the US. We copied American presidential system, but we didn't copy the federal system. What we have in Nigeria is a quasi-federal government, or more of a unitary government, where the central government in Abuja is very strong and powerful, where the executive can be involved in the fusion of power. They are involved in the judiciary and they are involved in the legislature. They are the ones that buy cars for the people in the legislature, so the legislature will be silent. or make laws that will favor the executive. There is no check and balance. That's not true federalism. Nigeria can do that. Nigeria can do constitutional conference, sit down and talk. Come and factor our problems together, our differences. Sit down and talk. Find a way. If we want to live together, we can conduct a referendum. Nigeria can conduct a referendum. There's no problem in that. Nations of the world are conducting referendum as we speak. A call for referendum is not a call for war. Conduct referendum. There is disunity. Nigeria never was one. It is inherent in every Nigerian to only love his brother and not love the other tribe. It's inherent. I have seen a preacher stand on the, or a pastor in quote, stand on the pulpit during the 2023 election and say, nothing will make me vote for an Igbo man. He was saying it in the church, in the congregation. He said, I know that this man is not good, but he's from my tribe. I'm going to vote for him. So that dislike for each other is there. We can't continue to deny it and say one Nigeria. Why do you think there is one before Nigeria? Do you ever hear one Canada, one Germany, one Ghana, one South Africa? Do you ever hear that? It is because we are not one. That's why they put that one there, to give us a semblance of one. There should be a referendum. That is the primary thing that should be done. There should be a referendum where people will decide whether we want to be in one country. The people who agree to be in one country should remain in Nigeria. The people who vote not to be in Nigeria should be allowed to go, so that there will be peace. Since there is no willingness to address the problem, this problem has been endemic to Nigeria. The problems that I just enumerated has been endemic to Nigeria. Even the first Republic ministers were said to be corrupt. Festus Okotiebo, the Minister of Finance, Michael Opara, one minister too, they were said to be corrupt in those days. That tells you, because there is no mind for a better Nigeria, people come there to better themselves. They come there only to steal. They don't want to be in the union, but they are forced to be in the union. There will always be agitation and discordant voice like this until we address it. If we refuse to address it and continue to vote in election as we are doing now, we are perpetuating the error. We are validating the mistake of Lugard. And let me tell you that voting in election in a situation like this is also validating the evil that is called the election. It's a sham. We all saw what happened in 2023. But now they are saying Nigerians voted for me because somebody went out to vote. The person who rigged himself to power mentioned a number that was higher than every other person's number. INEC announced him. So they said Nigerians voted for me. Nobody actually voted for him. He rigged himself into power. And now they use, because people came out to vote, people registered to vote, there was an election, they use it to validate that illegality. So anything we do without addressing these foundational problems will also be a validation of the error of Lugard in 1914, when he brought people together without consulting them. We can consult ourselves. If we have the willingness, we can sit down and talk. Conduct a referendum, a national constitutional conference, where every ethnic nationality in the space called Nigeria today will be brought together, where we will decide to disengage from Britain. The oil in the southeast is still, Britain still have a share in it. So anything you bring that will mean divide Nigeria or change the status quo, not even divide Nigeria, change the status quo, so that this Nigeria will not be a national cake only for the elites and for Britain. Britain will kick against it. That's why they go to Chatham House. Put an end to that. Choose a system of government that will favor the entire region at once. If the president is from the north, let every other region of Nigeria produce a vice president. This vice president will be seen from the region as the president. Whatever happened to the region, they should hold him accountable, because he will go to the president of all, and he should be rotational. 4 years, 6 years, let it go to another region. Why the other region have vice presidents? We can devise a system of government that will make it work, but there should be a referendum first to determine those who want to be in Nigeria. Those who want to be in Nigeria should remain. Factor their differences into it. Trash it. Find a way to raise a government, to create a system of government that will be beneficial to them, that will take into account their cultural, their historical, their religious, their linguistic differences, and their moral values, their values. The difference is in values. Somewhere in the north, people marry a young girl of 12 years old. Underage marriage, in a world as we speak, it is frowned at in the south. But if you go outside Nigeria, if you look at the news, you will hear that there is underage marriage in Nigeria. You become a victim of what you do not do. We have to factor it into place in order to exist peacefully. If we don't do that, this agitation will continue. There will be discordant tones. Nigeria is never going to progress. Nigeria is never going to move forward. And no nation can survive through 7 wars. Nigeria have fought one before and survived. If it breaks out again, I'm afraid Nigeria is not likely to survive it. So this is what we see as the problem with Nigeria, and these are also what we see as the solution to the problems. So, like we have said at the beginning, this is our view. This is what we think. We may be wrong, we may be right. You can criticize us constructively. You can add your own solution to the comments. Please share this video. Let it go viral. Let everybody hear. Everybody who is interested in a better Nigeria should hear. Nigeria should sit down and talk. We can talk through referendum, constitutional conference. Then we will decide to practice true federalism. True federalism as it is in the US, where the states have power to determine that illegal immigrants will not come into my state. Yes, the Constitution gave them the power. In a federal system of government, the Constitution is supreme. In the quasi-federal that we have in Nigeria, which is more of a unitary system of government, the executive, the central government in Abuja is supreme. They determine what happens in the states. Just a clique, a class, a clan of people who just determines what happens in the entire nation, subjugating the law. When the judiciary invite somebody to court, he will ignore court order. He will refuse to go to court. And nothing will happen because it belongs to the elites. Can't you see Nigeria decaying because it is on the wrong foundation? That will make me to quote that Bible verse that says, when the foundation is weak, what can the righteous do? The things that formed Nigeria, the interest that formed Nigeria, the template that formed Nigeria is wrong. Building on it, I will speak to you as an engineer. When you build on a wrong foundation, it's going to collapse. Let me ask you, let me tell you rather, if you go to an engineer or to an architect and say, give me a 2-bedroom flat, and you didn't tell him what you want in the flat, say, design for me a 2-bedroom flat, he will put his idea to paper. Design a 2-bedroom flat. He can design two rooms together and tell you that they are 2 rooms, even though they are together. He can put a wardrobe in your car park, in your garage, and tell you when you come back from work and you are tired, hang your jacket there. Tomorrow morning when you are going to work, before you jump into your car, pick your jacket from there. That is his idea. Because you didn't make a contribution to it, you are going to build a house, you are going to pay your money, you are going to live in the house. The house is your own, but you are living in somebody else's idea. Nigeria is the template of Britain. Nigeria is a business template of Britain. That business template is what is still running Nigeria. It needs to change. We need to tell ourselves the truth. We need to sit down and talk. We need to agree to be in one nation, or refuse to be in one nation and be allowed to go. Any part that say they don't want to be in Nigeria, peacefully let them go. Then let the part that wants to be in Nigeria remain in Nigeria, form a policy, develop a type of government that will suit them. Don't go and borrow presidential system that you cannot practice fully. I heard they want to revert to the regional system of government. Regional system of government brought development in the regions. But let me tell you that it exacerbated the division that Nigeria is. It created regionalism. There were regional political parties. There was no national party anymore. Parties became Northern political party, Eastern political party, Western political party. It was divided. Now, considering that the divide has gotten wider, the crack has gotten wider, go back to regionalism, then that will be a major problem, because we have not talked to ourselves. These are the solutions. Constitutional conference. Start with referendum. Let's vote to be in Nigeria or not to be. When we finish that and we agree to be in Nigeria, now there should be a constitutional conference where we will factor all our differences into it. Choose a type of constitution, a type of law. Empower the constitution. Let the rule of law be, not the rule of man, the rule of law. Let the law rule. If you break the law, you'll suffer for it. Yes. So let the constitution be what will devolve power, and we will choose a system of government that will be beneficial to all. If we live by that, Nigeria will get better. You will see development. You will see improvement. You will see peace. But as long as we want to continue to validate the errors of Lugard, it's not a curse, but the problem will persist. Until I see you next time, thank you for being there. Don't forget to like our videos, share our video, and subscribe to our channel. As we have said, this is our view, and we will continue to dish out more as we continue in this channel. Until I see you next time, God bless you.